Welcome back, folks. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Gary Sheffield Jr. This is Yankees Unloaded. Probably the most exciting thing you're going to watch at this point, when it comes to the Yankees. We've already had people reach out and even drop comments like, "Yeah, I look forward to this more than I look forward to the Yankees right now." And Garrett kind of goes along with what we've been saying. Like, this team can be great all year, but when they have their slump or their fall off, it looks absolutely terrible. And shout out to my aunt because she was talking about this, and it's funny. She's really into this team as well. My aunt Gina, and we were talking about it today at my dad's open mic night. And, just bringing up like everything. She had not seen our show yet. She didn't even know I had a show. So she will be watching. But it's funny because everything she was saying, we say all the time. Like, I'm so tired of Glaber and DJ. I have more pop than DJ is the way she put it. So, it's a lot of funny, stuff there.
I think she'll like this,
joke,
but she'll like our audience too.
Yes, I agree. And we're talking, and I'm not even kidding you. When we're, there, it's like, dude, just sitting there at the table, and I look at my phone and I'm like, it's 8-0. She's like, there's no way. She's like, it's 8-0. It's like, no, it's not. I looked, I was like, oh my God. So yeah, I had to rewatch this after the fact, as much as I could stomach. I mean, let's be honest here. I'm not going to sit here and say I rewatched the entire game, even after I knew the result was 9-2. But Gary, I mean, I guess we got to help take these people off the ledge, because I know there are a lot of people that are like ready to give up on this team already. They're still the second best team, record wise in baseball. It looks bleak, and we were talking about this off air. I don't remember Girardi teams having these awful like skids and slumps and falling off a cliff. Boone has had this every year, but Boone has also had some pretty good teams. Now, I know the Yankee fans don't want to hear that. A lot of people are out on Boone. I'm actually not. Okay. I think Boone is a good manager. He's not my favorite manager. I liked Girardi more. But I'm not out on Boone. And I think, I know it's hard, and I really understand, like, people are going to have a really big issue with this, but just try to understand, 162 games. This is an 82 game season. They'd be at the end point of the year. I mean, they have pretty much what I would call an NBA record at this point. They'd be ready for the playoffs. The reality is, when you look at the Yankees, and you have 162 games, the broad scope is that they've actually been really freaking good this year. I mean, more often than not, this has been the best team in baseball.
Yeah, but when they're bad, Baltimore, they were bad. Like, Baltimore had lost like 4 or 5 games in a row. They look terrible too. But yeah, go ahead and finish that statement.
Well, yeah, I just think, like, when they're bad, they look like the worst thing you've ever seen. And you know how recency bias runs rampant in media. And Gary's like, yeah, I do.
I sure do, covering this team. Are you kidding me?
But recency bias will have you making an enemy of your hero. Okay. And we saw that full-fledged Aaron Judge. We were critical of Judge early on, but it wasn't like we sent him down to AAA like some people were saying, which is absolutely ridiculous. The reality is, it's a long season, and I know we have already said that, but I think they're going to turn this thing around. I know they're going to turn this thing around. They're not going to continue to fall off a cliff like this, but I do think the injuries are a big reason why people don't feel like this is going to turn itself around, because they're hearing, oh, we're not going to have Stanton for a month, and we're not going to have Jason for 2 months. And, then he has to actually rehab at that point. So I do get that. I understand thinking about all that. And then the guys they have left, I mean, they had Jahmai Jones today. I mean, I get it, but, as frustrating as this is, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah. Okay. So hopefully what I say is therapy for some people who are listening today, because that was just an absolute joke of a performance. And I'll say this, we spend so much money on this team. There are a lot of people who go to games once a year. I think that's a realistic reality. Okay. for the average American and that's a Yankees fan. Because I mean, I assume you're a Yankees fan listening to the show. Most are, but you might go with your son or your daughter, take them up to Yankee Stadium, make that road trip, right? Maybe get a hotel, go out to dinner after, grab a slice of pizza, and you hope to see a good effort. And the one thing that I'll say, you brought up Boone. My biggest problem with Boone, and I thought this started actually. I know our losing streak started just before this, but with Gleyber Torres jogging down the first base line and Boone not sticking up for the fact that that's just wildly unacceptable. And frankly, he didn't say anything about it. They asked him questions about it. He didn't go hard at him. I thought it was a really good opportunity for Boone to set the tone that that's unacceptable on this team. And this effort, starting from first pitch, was low energy, low effort. There was absolutely no focus to this game. Of course, Carlos Rodon came out. People said he was tipping pitches. Some people said he's just bad, right? And everyone's entitled to that opinion. But I'll say this. This was low effort. This is not a good Toronto team. The 37-42 coming in. Actually, they were 36-43 coming into this game. This is not a good Toronto team. They're a fifth place team in this division. You should be able to come out. If we lose these games, they should be competitive. I can accept losing. It's baseball. We're going to lose games, okay?
Yeah.
But not like that. That was not championship baseball. Champions don't look like champions every day, but you should recognize some championship pedigree at some point in the game. The Yankees laid down at first pitch. They were laid down in the ninth inning the whole way through. There was nothing to watch. I thought it was actually disrespectful to even ask Yankees fans to have stuck around and watch this game. And I think Yankees players, their management, and maybe even some guys at Yes would even admit to that. That was a joke. It was embarrassing. They should feel embarrassed. And I expect a better performance because we do pay money for this, okay? So to ask people to be able to afford to go one time a year, because this is a reality, as I've said, and to maybe run into a team that can do that, it's disrespectful. And remember, earlier this year, we talked about Houston, and I've talked about their championship pedigree, to which, of course, like as Yankees fans, we don't want to talk about that. Like we don't want to talk about the fact that they've won multiple times, right? This is a team that's accomplished a lot. Well, they weren't winning games. But like I told you before, do you remember when we were about to go out and sweep them? And I said, Houston, there's something about them that has a championship pedigree where they are going to punch back at some point. They're going to punch back in this series. And long behold, they did in the finale of that series. Well, long story short, if we want to be champions, sometimes you need to look across the block and say, what are champions doing? Now, of course, in 2017, you had the whole cheating scandal, but what are they doing outside of that, right? Are they back in the hunt to win a World Series? They were. What were they doing? They were high effort, high energy, athletic. They could pitch. And we do most of these things, but we don't do all of them. And that's my problem. And I think that falls on Boone. I've talked about all the positive things I could ever say about Boone this year. I can't say whether or not I think he's the best guy for the job. I think he's good enough. You definitely can criticize him 100%. I think it's
absolutely
valid. But we're in a situation where there's no way you can come in as bad as our 5 through 9 is in this lineup, injury or not. That's a joke. That performance right there, to ask people to watch that and pay hard-earned money and maybe go see that if you're a Yankees fan in Toronto, right? Go on the road and have some fun with some family. Why would you want to watch the Yankees right now? The Yankees look like, if you didn't know who this team was, if the record was wiped away and you had to cover your eyes and you only had to watch this game, you would assume we were a fifth place team today. That would be your assumption. So I just thought it was an embarrassing performance. I was embarrassed that I run a podcast every single day covering this team. They've looked so good. And then Jake and I have to get on the air and come up with the right words to describe what we just saw. And I think we're doing the Yankees and baseball in our community here on YouTube a huge disservice by not saying that was a joke.
No, I agree. I think we're also doing them a huge favor by not being like, that was trash. They're trash. Everybody's trash. Like, I've already seen so much of that. Like, do you have anything other like in your vocabulary than trash?
Wait,
I mean,
you're missing something. I always knew he sucked. I always knew it. We would regress back to the norm.
Is this
That's the
the
one I hear
LeBron
every day.
meme, but it's like the reverse LeBron meme? I always knew he'd be sucked.
Oh my gosh,
I knew from day one. Gleyber
dude.
Torres, 7 years
Those
later, was
those
gonna.
lies are so. The best thing is first page LeBron by far.
Oh
He's
man,
when he walks past like a camera crew and he's reading like Harry Potter and he's literally on like the he's on
they'll
the
be
what
like,
do you
"Hey,
call it, the index.
yeah," and then like, "Hey, what's that book about?" Yeah, I learned a lot about it, and it's just there's a no. I hear you
LeBron's
totally.
never read a book in his life.
Hey, this
Stupid.
is a great day for LeBron. I mean, his son now plays with him. But look,
Yeah.
getting off topic there a little bit, let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll start with the good. The good, not a lot, but Grisham, how about that? Every time this guy gets a hit, he hits a freaking home run. It's like he has 5 home runs out of like 10 hits, Gary. Like
What's that new Star Wars series that they just canceled? Is it called like Acolyte?
they didn't cancel it, but yeah,
Oh,
they
because
just
I heard it
released
was
it.
okay. So I heard they were canceling it for the next season.
Oh
I
yeah,
think that
they
Trent
probably
Grisham
should do
bomb
that.
today was about as pointless as the new Acolyte series in Star Wars. Absolutely a joke. It was like Rogue One. Remember? And Rogue One, I didn't
Hey,
even hate
Rogue
Rogue
One
One.
is amazing.
It was an amazing movie, but it didn't have to happen. We didn't need to know why the Death Star was able to be destroyed or how they knew. It was just
I
a
don't know.
story. We don't need to
Yeah, no,
know.
I get what you're saying.
There was nothing good about this game, but it was a great swing from Trent Grisham. Remember, I told you at the beginning of the year, I said his job is to play great defense
It hit
and to hit a
bombs.
random homer. Today was one of
Yeah.
Those days, and he does his job well.
Trent
He
Grisham
does
is
what he's
that
paid to do.
guy. He's like, I came to chew bubblegum and kick some ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum. This guy literally he comes out there. He's got no freaking batting gloves on and just looks like a caveman swinging it. And
Yeah, he looks like Moises Alou, just pissing on
he
his
really,
hands and just go out there.
he
How would you
does.
not go out there with batting gloves? Multi-millionaire. You can have gloves if he wanted them, and he just chooses not to.
I mean,
So you got to
Posada
respect
didn't
that.
wear them, but I think so early on in early on in my baseball career, we'll say, like little league, I actually never had batting gloves. I like the grip. But then when I got older, I was like, I don't know how you people do this. Like, it's better. Like, I get it when you're using an aluminum bat, but when you're
Mhm.
using wood, I don't
Mm-mm.
understand it. I don't get it.
No, when
But
it gets cold and you're on the East Coast,
yeah, screw
I
that.
don't get that, man. 45, like Trent Grisham would go out there, no batting gloves, just raw dogging an at bat. And it's
He did
like
that
an
in
October
April.
night. Yeah, he's nuts.
Yeah,
April, he'll do it in
hell no.
October. He gets at bats. It is not human. I don't know how players do it, but obviously it's a feel thing. That's his main thing. He's probably been doing it since he was young. And I guess you know who actually did it since we're playing the Blue Jays is Vladdy Senior. Vladdy Senior didn't hit with batting gloves. Every
Yeah.
once in a while he'd throw some batting gloves in there if he was slumping, but his heyday in Anaheim, that
Oh
dude
yeah, and he
raw
just
dogging.
twists that bat around. Like your dad had the bat waggle, he had the freaking twisting of the circling of the bat. Like that was, you never even knew where he didn't even have a. See, your dad would do a bat waggle that was consistent every time he went up, and Vladdy would have like just like all over the place, man.
I wish
I mean,
I do have a bat over there in the corner. Vladdy literally would just be like,
yeah.
we're like, what is he doing? Like, it looks like he's having a stroke. And then obviously he's in the Hall
Yeah.
of Fame, long story short. So,
Yeah, and then the ball would
good
be
for him.
literally like kissing the ground, and the guy would golf it off the freaking. I mean, literally right off home plate one time. I watched him golf it into the stands.
Yeah.
Incredible power.
One of
But
the greatest bad ball hitters of all time, if not the.
yes, so the wild thing about this game, Volpe starts off the game with a base hit.
Yep.
There's only 2 hits the rest of the game, and those 2 hits are Grisham and
Jahmai
Jones.
And so Grisham, Jahmai Jones, and Volpe in the first at bat, as you said.
Yeah,
It was a tough game. And I will say this, Jake, if you're a fan and you watched that game and you got through the whole game, because I'll tell you right now, I did not. I
Fan of the
didn't
Year
make it through
award.
the
No,
whole game.
I didn't either. I went to rewatch it, and knowing the result already, I could only get through like 6 innings.
Yeah, as I tweeted, I went for a walk.
Yeah,
Anytime the Yankees are
that's smart.
awful and it's like stressing me out, I go for a walk. And I've gone for 3 walks in the past 3 days. Like
Wow,
I
so you're
tweeted,
like,
I've got more steps in than freaking Forrest Gump.
I mean, you're going for walks as much as Juan Soto walks when you have like JD Davis at cleanup. I mean, look, JD Davis wasn't in the lineup today. We were actually pretty intrigued by the lineup. This is kind of what we
Yeah.
wanted. Wells, no hits today. I like the walk. I like that at bat. Again, we talk about rhythm. He and Cabrera need to play every day from here on out. They really do. We need to get them into a rhythm. Jahmai Jones at second wasn't bad. So that's good because you know what that actually told me is I don't know, and I'm not trying. Keep in mind, I played second base. I'm not trying to offend anyone. I think second base might be the easiest position to transition a outfielder to.
Oh,
Okay,
absolutely.
and so,
100%.
but do you see where I'm going with this?
Mhm.
Jason Dominguez. I think
Yeah,
they need
I
to
wonder
try
if
and
he can do
transfer
that.
him to second base. I think they have to. I think they absolutely every bit have to do that. Because when he comes back, I mean, I don't want to hear this all, oh, what are they going to do with him? Well, I mean, he could play over anybody at this point except for Judge and Soto. So miss me with that. But the point I'm making is I saw that today, and it's nothing against Jahmai Jones, but that's clearly the easiest position. I know first is pretty easy as well if you're built for it. But second base, I loved second base. I played second base. Second base would be the easiest position. It's why I was basically a second base center fielder because I had a lot of range and I could play center, but I also preferred second base. But yeah,
Okay.
that's something to keep in mind. Cabrera did not mind the at bats that we saw from him. I know he had a strikeout, probably wants that one back. Ben Rice, look, rookie. Again, I'm not seeing any glaring like, oh my God, this guy just can't hit in the big leagues. And that play today down the line, it's a tough play. He needs to obviously pick it up and tag first, but I see what he was doing. I see the rationale behind that. Kind of had a weird spin on the ball because basically Carlos Rodon gets him to saw it off a little bit, and the ball just had a weird run to it. So just one of those unfortunate situations. People are like, "This is the dumbest play I've ever seen in baseball." I disagree. But obviously you want to see a better play on that. And then I guess we kind of went away from good, the bad, the ugly. We're just kind of going all over the place here. But
Good and shitty.
the good, going back to the good here, Kirk Cousins' cousin. Okay, Jake Cousins is back with a freaking vengeance.
Look good.
He was the
Which I
only
didn't
thing that
see it.
looked good out of the bullpen because I actually I watched 6 innings through and then I saw, Jake Cousins, obviously. I went, and watched his, run because he only had 20 something pitches. And yeah, he looked good. I don't know what he was doing in AAA. I really didn't understand that. They were like, AAA. And like, he wasn't great in his last outing in the majors, but I was like, bro, you gave these other guys that weren't anywhere near him stuff wise a way longer leash. So I'm glad that he's back. I think he's going to help the bullpen out. I think he's ready for it. No idea what the hell we're doing, by the way. The corresponding move to bring up Jake Cousins was to send down Yuendris Gomez, who I've been raving about. So I don't know what the hell we're doing, Gary.
Now
And I
listening to
think,
the show is what they're doing.
well, I know. And it's weird because you have other people that are actually watching the show, but I'll just leave it at that. No, what I want to say is this. With the Yankees, the state that they're in right now, I think anything they do is going to be heavily criticized. But when you see guys like Gomez, who just pitched 5 innings out of the freaking bullpen and looked really good and hasn't pitched in quite a bit, and you see him getting sent down to AAA and wasting an option on him, I don't understand their thought process. By the way, Clayton Andrews today, who wasn't that great ever really in the majors, showed a little bit of promise in AAA. He opted for free agency. So the Yankees literally lost that guy by he didn't want to come back to AAA. And he said, all right, screw you guys. And you know what? Good for him. The Yankees botched that. I mean, I'm not saying he's a great pitcher or anything like that, but it's just it's a reminder. So keep in mind, guys, while we're saying don't give up on the season, do not mistake that for we're not going to criticize this team. We're absolutely going to criticize this team. We're going to hold this team accountable. And that is one of those things, Gary, where I was holding them accountable for the Clayton Andrews thing because that was
Can I hold them accountable on one other thing? I think this is something that cannot be ignored. Of course, Rodon looked like Patrick Corbin today. He was absolutely dismal, terrible.
Oh, yeah.
People said he was tipping pitches. He looked terrible. I don't want to hear any excuses.
I'm
and
over
honestly,
the tipping pitches, by the way.
Tipping
I'm
pitches,
so over it.
You can't say someone tipped pitches every time they get shelled. Okay, Luis Gil goes out there, he dominates his next start. He gives up 10, and then we say, "Oh,
It's like
they
NFL
must have
fans
known."
blaming every loss on the refs.
When was the last time we went out there and scored 10 runs and then we said, well, the pitcher must have been tipping pitches? Like the Yankees must have known the
Yeah.
pitches that were being thrown. We never say that. We've never
No.
said it. We'll never say it in the future.
No,
So
it's
having said all that,
ridiculous.
if I told you Volpe, Soto, Judge, Verdugo, and Rice were going to go 1 for 17, do you really think we were going to win a game? No.
No.
We had no chance at all,
Nope.
not a shot in hell, unless we throw a no-hitter from Rodon, which, based on the context of his last start, we knew this start was going to be mediocre. We thought we would just be able to hit Barrios enough to win this game, right? That was our prediction, is that the
Oh,
Yankees
yeah,
would
that worked
come
out.
out here. Yeah, that worked out really well. But the Yankees came out. Barrios likes to spin his curveball, his slider, right? He's got a changeup. And in general, he's seen as like more of a junky guy. He throws a lot of junk, right? Little Yu Darvishy in him. Well,
Yeah.
the Yankees are not hitting that type of pitching right now. They just aren't. They're
No.
not showing the type of plate discipline it's going to take. They've got a couple young guys in their lineup who are not going to have the discipline. I think Rice is one of those guys who can do that, but the other guys really haven't shown that pedigree yet. So right now we're in a rough spot. I know it's difficult. I'm very thankful that we have an audience that, our last video had 3,500 views. So the
That's
fact
just
that we're getting
insane.
that type of viewership for that long as well, our retention's been incredible through an awful stretch of Yankees baseball. We look
keeps going
terrible in
up.
every way.
Misery loves company.
Apparently. But I try to, at the very least, be honest about what we're saying. I don't watch losses and say, okay, fire everybody. But there have been times where I've said, hey, I think it's time that we can move on from Aaron Boone. And I gave my reasonings as to why that was. But then he was brought back, obviously, to no control of mine. And I still, while he's manager, am going to discuss in detail with Jake what he's done right. And up until about 2.5 weeks ago, Boone had done a lot right. He'd let a lot of guys go deep into starts, to which he'd never done. Okay. He was never doing that before. It was always, let's squeak to the 5th inning and then we'll go from there. We'll just keep going. Set up man, set up man, set up man. We basically were leading the league in holds, right? We just had a million guys touching the mound every single night. It worked a lot. We were winning 98 to 100 games, which you can give Boone credit for that. But at the same time, we were gassed come October, man. We had nothing left. And I came into the season saying, if you want to win in October, to which we haven't done since I was in middle school, and I'm 30, well, you're going to have to do something different. And one of those things I thought needed to change was that you need to give guys a stronger leash, allow them, I guess to say a looser leash, and go out there and actually go deep into starts. It's going to help the bullpen. You might be able to keep a guy in the bullpen and not even use him. That'll help us in October. It might give us a shot in the arm to get through that stretch. And long behold, Boone did exactly that. So I covered it. You covered it. And so right now, Boone's making a lot of mistakes, but at the same time, let's not get it twisted. The 5 through 9 spot in this lineup is not very talented. It doesn't look very good. Let's just be honest. And you can say it's injuries, you can say whatever. It doesn't look very good. Guys are not performing. Guys that maybe we say should be called up are not being called up. It's just ugly. It's ugly as hell. And part of our job as podcasters is we don't want anyone to give up on this team. So if anyone thinks that we just want it to be all hell for views, that's not what it's going to come of. Like, nothing's going to come of us getting you to give up on this team. If you really give up on the Yankees, you're sure as shit not going to go to YouTube and watch two jamokes talk about this team for 24 minutes. You're not. So the reality is we want to get you guys in a mentality that things need to change, but we're still not giving up on the team. And that's where we are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Carlos Rodon had a bizarre, how many times do you see a guy that almost has a triple double pitching? He almost had 10 earned runs, 10 hits, and 10 strikeouts. The strikeouts, I give him a lot of credit. I will say that. I give him a lot of credit because he stuck out there, okay? There are guys, I don't care what anyone says. When guys want to stay in, they know they have good numbers, okay? It's really that simple. When you see a guy who's fighting a manager, be like, he knows he's throwing a no hitter, or he's throwing a one hitter, or he's throwing a shutout, or he wants to get out of this jam because he wants to not give up these runs. Okay, regardless of what people think about, they care about stats. They do. They also care about winning. But if your stats are good at the moment and you have guys on base or even not, they're like, no, I like where I'm at right now. I want to keep pitching. Rarely do you ever see a guy like Rodon who has given up 8 runs, like begging to stay in.
CC
And
Sabathia did this, by the way. CC Sabathia,
see,
it wasn't
that's
all
very
roses and
rare.
sunshine. He would go out there, CC would get shelled. This is, like you said, rare. Hardly ever happen. But every once in a while, especially on the latter half of his career, you would see CC give up 7 runs in an inning and 2/3, and you're like, holy shit, what's going on? But you
Yeah,
know what you would see, Jake, and this is what you bring up this point, is you'd still see CC in the 5th. And you love that
yeah,
because we saw in that Garrett Cole start where they pulled him early what that does to a bullpen. What does that do?
exactly. And
And
what is
it was big time.
what is the point? What is the
Yeah.
point? Oh, I have to take him out because he gave up. The game's over. I
Yep.
mean, you're down 8 runs.
You don't
Why
have to
are
pull
you
him for
pulling him?
anything.
You don't
Yeah.
have to pull him at all. There's nothing
No.
out there. Well, it's not fair to his ERA. Well, he wants to keep staying out there, and I don't give a rip about his ERA.
Yeah, who cares about his ERA?
Like
I gave you guys a prediction, right? But if you're going to go give up 7 runs in the first inning, you think I'm going to want you pulled out of the game so my prediction in April could be right? To hell with
also,
that. I don't care about it.
I don't think Bickford's it, man. He's now got over a 6 ERA. Gave up another homer. I don't know. I don't know if like it's really
His
weird
ERA looks like
how
60-yard dash time at this point.
I know. I mean, honestly, let's have a real It's time to have a real conversation about the bullpen. Okay, let's have a real conversation about the bullpen. The Yankees right now. Okay, they have Clay Holmes, who's their closer, right? So they have their closer. Clay Holmes has been inconsistent lately, but he's still really good. I mean, you can't say that he's not good. But currently, their bullpen is Clay Holmes, Luke Weaver. I really like Luke Weaver. Luke Weaver has been a revelation this year for the Yankees. He's been great. So you have those two. Canely looked really good
And that was a recent revelation, by the way.
Yeah.
That just happened because his literally 2 outings ago, Canely threw 17 straight changeups and was so uncomfortable with his fastball, he didn't even use it once.
And then he brought his fastball back, and we were talking about it. The velocity is there, and you're like, oh, shit.
It looked good. Yeah,
Canely might be back. And if Canely's back, you have a nice 3, you have a Cerberus dog right there with those 3
Dog,
guys.
our bullpen is terrible. Let me tell you something.
Well, no. After that's I was going to get into that. Caleb Ferguson. Do you trust him pitching in October?
No,
but he has pitched decently well at times. Last night, obviously not. Michael Tonkin. I like Michael Tonkin. I feel good about him. He has pitched very well.
I don't want to see Michael Tonkin. Let me say this: Michael Tonkin has been excellent. Excellent. Yeah. An A. I would give him an A. Do I want to see Michael Tonkin facing Shohei Ohtani in October? Do I think that would lead to anything advantageous for us? No. I think that Michael Tonkin...
but I think he'd make the roster. He'd be in the bullpen.
He would make the roster, but so how many pitchers do you feel confident facing the 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4 of one of the best lineups in the league? How many of those guys would you say you feel confident in?
No, I agree with you. But what I'm saying here is you have Holmes, you have Weaver, you have Canely.
Yep.
You and I are kind of, I mean, Ferguson's is too much of a risk.
Okay.
You have Tonkin. So you have 4 guys in the bullpen.
Yep.
Then Jake Cousins, if he pitches like today, by all means, that's 5. How many guys in the bullpen are you looking for? And my question is, with those guys, is that enough? Because you do have Ian Hamilton, Scott Efros. Those guys could be back soon. So, I mean, I'm not asking like, it's not a like I'm genuinely like, I don't know. I really, I don't know how many guys you keep in the bullpen. I don't know who goes to I don't know if Poteet's there. I don't know what that looks like. But I think there is a chance here that the Yankees, their bullpen, and this is the conversation I want to have. I don't think their bullpen is as bad as we make it out to be. But the conversation, they are not elite. They are good. They are not elite. And you brought this up before the show and you said super bullpen. Okay. I'm going to call it power bullpen because
Oh,
super
the bullpens
bullpen.
of the bullpens
Yeah.
that we used to have. Yeah.
Yeah. Super bullpen just makes me think of a Super Bowl pen. So like what the hell does that mean? So yeah, power bullpen, with Britton and I mean Betances back in the day and had guys like obviously Chapman and
Robertson. We had it all.
Robertson, Canely, the dude from that they got, Miller. And it's like obviously they have taken way more interest in the past to their bullpen. This year's very much makeshift. Okay. It's kind of like, hey, let's just figure it out as we go. I mean, they brought in a lot of guys. They made a lot of offseason trades. They brought in Vivas, the infielder, but they also brought in Victor Gonzalez. They brought in Caleb Ferguson. They traded for Cody Morris. They go out and get Cody Poteet. It's like they do these things, and that just tells me there was really never a clear cut, hey, we have a 1-2-3 punch. We are going to punch you in the mouth if you let us in this bullpen. If we get an early lead, the game's over. We are literally suffocating you, putting you in a rear naked chokehold, and you're dead.
We used to talk about that a lot, by the way. Not our
Yeah,
show, but just Yankees fans in general. If we were winning in the fifth inning, our broadcast would talk about, well, when the Yankees are winning after the fifth, this is what their record looks like. The reason
yeah.
those conversations happened was because of the personnel. In my opinion, the best word for this bullpen is just serviceable, which, by the way, when you say that you've got a serviceable anything, you're basically saying a lot of times
Meets
it works.
expectations.
It works,
Yeah.
but I won't lean on this. This is not something that
No.
is
It
it's
can't
not
get you out of a
excellent.
jam.
No, it's not going to bail you out. It definitely
No.
won't. And right now, when you're a team that, frankly, the 5 through 9 are lineup, it looks
And they're
like
in a jam.
we're in a tight spot, and we're
Yeah.
not necessarily scoring the runs the way we need to. Our starting rotation isn't giving us what we've been accustomed to this whole year. Well, you're not going to look at Michael Tonkin, Caleb Ferguson, Canley, Luke Weaver, Holmes. You're not going to look at that group and say, well, I mean, at least we can rely on these guys for a couple weeks. Because I tell you this right now, there were times, I know we hit a lot of homers back in the day in like 2018, 2017, but I'll tell you this. There were times where those teams went like a week and a half and scored like maybe 2 runs a game. And we were still winning games because we could rely on high prized arms. Now, we're not going to go spend $14 million on 3 or 4 guys likely in the next decade, right? The way we used to. But I'll tell you this, that bullpen needs more. I don't know
Oh, yeah.
how you're going to do it. More needs to be in there. And that's part of the reason why I think, Jake, I know you're excited about it. I'm very excited about it. But the trade deadline next month,
Oh, yeah.
they either got to get busy, right? They got to get busy, or
Our
they better
channel is
get
going to
busy.
blow up during that.
It sure will.
Yeah.
And of course, we have guests who will announce at a later date or whenever we feel comfortable with it. But I'll tell you this right now. This bullpen is just serviceable for a early regular season, right? First half regular season, but into September and October, all the guys that you're considering, yeah, he's having a solid first half, nothing spectacular, but he's still worth a roster spot. Well, those guys that you have those conversations, those are not the guys you want to scoot to the center of the table. You know, right? When everyone's pushing their marbles to the center of the table, right? Their chips to the center of the table, you're not going to say, oh, well, I'm Michael Tompkins coming to pitch. You're not going to do that, okay? He might be able to go out against the average team in Major League Baseball and be highly successful, I guess you can say, especially with the expertise of Matt Blake. But I'm not relying on this bullpen in any way when it matters. Absolutely not. If we go face Baltimore and we're in a 7-game series against the other best team in the American League, which right now, by the way, Jake, this is the second place New York Yankees you're talking about. Okay. So the
Yeah.
Yankees at this point are looking up. We said at some point this could be the reality, and this is when it was going to, these are going to be the dark days. Now we hope that the New York Yankees can throw an umbrella up and put some players on the field that actually deserve to be out there and put the right guys on the field. That's another topic that we brought up. So yeah, there's a lot to be pissed off about. I think everyone's opinions in the comment section are going to be valid. I'm not going to try to talk anyone off any ledge. Reality is everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I think it's absolutely atrocious what they're doing right now. And yeah, some guys kind of overperform there in the first 2 months of the season, but it's also not as bad as what people are kind of stretching it out to be. That's one thing I will say.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think we talked about him the other day. I really think Tanner Scott makes the most sense
Out
because
of Miami.
yeah, I don't see Mason Miller. I really don't. I would not get your hopes up for that. And obviously if I really saw a pathway there, I would be honest with you guys. I'd be honest with you, Gary, but I mean, I'm just being honest now. I don't think Mason Miller's going to the Yankees. It's not that I don't think he'll get traded. I just don't think the Yankees are going to be the ones to do it. I really don't. I don't see the thing that really sucks is Pereira that went down with that injury. Pereira is their 5th prospect on MLB.com. Other teams like him a little bit more than that. Some teams don't, but he's definitely a top prospect in that farm system. And he was kind of the trade chip. I mean, without saying it, they kind of told us that Spencer Jones is there. They haven't even shown any interest in trading him. And Jason Dominguez is there, who they've shown no interest in trading. Now, in a perfect world, if Pereira was hitting well and didn't actually suffer a season-ending injury, Pereira could have an opportunity in the outfield. You could move Dominguez to second base and have Spencer Jones in the outfield as well. The reality of it, though, is that he's probably not getting moved to second base, and Pereira is out for the year. So they've traded guys before. Remember, what's his face? I totally forgot his name, but he hurt his knee, actually suffered a season-ending injury in the Athletics game. It's like he made his debut and he was playing well.
Are you talking about Dustin?
Yes, Dustin Fowler?
Yeah, I think something like that. I know exactly who you're down the right field line. He ran into the wall.
Yeah, awful.
Horrible. It was
awful.
horrible.
His first freaking game. And he was so energetic and everything. They ended up, ironically, trading him to the A's, where this whole thing even happened. But they traded him when he was hurt, is my point. He was part of that trade to get Sonny Gray. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't rule out them trading Pereira, but the problem is the value is now down because he can't get any better this year. He's gonna
Dude, our infield room is terrible. Has anyone had that conversation? I don't know if we have, but it's really just now hitting me like a bus.
Because
our
Glaber's
infield is
not
horrible.
Good.
Yeah, our infield is horrible. It really just hit me. Because think about it. Anthony Volpe, spectacular, right?
Yeah.
In my opinion, offensively, highly underrated. He's just a guy who he's dealing with some issues of a second-year player. But overall, I really like what I'm seeing. I like it, right?
Major improvement from last year.
Major improvement. But look elsewhere. First base. How many people feel confident about Anthony Rizzo going into October? I don't think
anybody wants Anthony Rizzo.
You definitely said that you actually said you expect never to see him again. Okay. I said I do expect to see him again because obviously we're paying him a lot of money. Now that just because that's my prediction doesn't mean I'm saying that's what should happen. Okay. So I want to be clear on that. But we're saying that a guy that we're paying $15 million a year plus to play first base, nobody wants him to be playing first base anymore. Okay. So that means a rookie or somebody else who is coming outside a position has to go play first base. Your second baseman is leading the league in errors. He's hitting 210. His whole game is power. He's hitting 7 bombs. He doesn't run down the first base line. He has no heart. Okay? That's your second baseman. He's in a contract year doing that. Your third baseman, you're far and away your best performer in Cabrera. He essentially put the team on his back the first month of the season, him and Soto, right? They had the two-headed monster going there. Him and Volpe. Our 1-2-3 was just nasty, right?
Yeah.
And then we wait for DJ Lemahieu, who had a decent second half of last year, and we forced him on the field, taking Cabrera, who was the lone bright spot at third base this year. Sat Cabrera down on the bench for DJ Lemahieu to have an ops of 400. So our third baseman, who's played more games the last 30 days than anybody else, his ops is 400. You've got Gleyber Torres doing absolutely nothing at second base. Our catcher can't throw. Rizzo's hurt with like a broken arm. Our infield's not good.
No,
I have to say it. I
with
just
John
have to say
Birdie
it.
injured, it really. That's the thing. I mean, Birdie, we praised that pickup big time. That was a great pickup, and he was hitting 270 when he got hurt, and he
Very
was
good
actually
pickup.
creeping up into the 300s. I don't think people remember that. He started off really slow, and then he started playing every day, and miraculously, it's funny when you play every day, you actually like have some sort of like, I don't know, momentum.
Yeah, it is
And
weird how that goes.
yeah, and he started hitting well, and now the problem is we talked about, revving up Garrett Cole. I think you kind of have to do that again with Cabrera in a sense, where Cabrera was playing every day, and then you pretty much demoted him to now he's playing once a week, if even. And I'm not expecting Cabrera to go out there and have 2 hits every game like he was doing earlier in the year. And that, to me, everyone focuses on the wrong things. Like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Don't put Anthony Volpe at leadoff. Well, if it's not broke, don't fix it. How about don't shove DJ LeMahieu in there like he's like a freaking peg that doesn't fit? I mean, it was ridiculous, man. And they shoved him in there. They shoved out Oswaldo Cabrera, and they were just like, yeah, he's the guy. And notice, as soon as they announced that DJ LeMahieu was going to be the guy when he was back, Cabrera's numbers started to dip like immediately.
It
The
was a
confidence
meteor.
was
Yep.
lost. And I think he's a player. And I mean, this doesn't make him soft. I don't care what anyone says, because these are men. These are, there's emotions. I mean, I don't think people realize like the heart that goes into baseball or any sport. To have your manager kind of basically say he doesn't believe in you without actually saying it. I mean, this is a guy that's a high energy guy. He's kind of like the kid. He's always been kind of viewed as the kid. And, I think he thought he got his opportunity and he worked his tail off to do it. And then you have, the start of the season that's not really appreciated, because at the end of the day, it didn't matter. So it really makes you wonder, like, what could he have done to keep the job? Who knows?
Well,
But
Jake, can I ask you a question? Because I actually think that this pertains to Cabrera and DJ. And I think that people really need to hear this and put this into perspective. It quite literally would be like me being like, yeah, let's run Yankees Unloaded. Hey, Jake, I'm just letting you know today is, by the time you see this show, it'll be Friday morning, June 28th. I just want to let you know, Jake, behind the scenes, you've done a really good job helping us get up to 870 subscribers, but I got this other dude who's actually even better, and he's going to come in and fill in for you. Okay. And then, so if I need you later on, like, you'll totally be part of the show later, but not right now, but I'm going to bring in this other guy. How well would you do tomorrow's show? Not very. You would be like, what the heck? You wouldn't even want to do tomorrow's show.
oh no, I wouldn't
That's
do tomorrow's show. If
that's the
Yeah,
human element of people believing in you. And again, when I started the show, right, and when we decided to put the show together, because this was a dual partnership, and we were like, okay, here's what we're doing, right? We equally believe in each other. If
yes,
either one of us told each other, yeah, I think this other podcaster is probably a better pairing for us, right? You naturally, as a human being, would be like, I don't even want to do this. You don't
yeah,
have any, you would probably lose confidence in yourself. That would probably be the first thing. You're like, oh, I just suck. I
yeah,
stink at this job. And so we're here today talking Yankees baseball for our audience because we think that each other are the two best people for this job. That's why we're here.
hundred
But
percent.
if at any point Boone comes out and he says, yeah, stay strong, kid, you're just killing it. But this other guy, yeah, he's highly paid and he's going to take your job.
And how would that
You'll be
conversation go? Because there's nothing out there to show that LeMahieu's better. And by the way,
nothing.
when Cabrera, before he said that, Cabrera had an OPS around 1,000. Like, what are we doing? Like, it just, I don't know. I don't want to, go back when we didn't flame Boone at that time. We kind of were like, and we did talk about it, but still, I do feel like those type of moves, they matter. And it's something that you can fix, but you have to keep playing Cabrera. And in my opinion, you really have to keep playing Wells because Trevino might not even be here next year. Wells will be. Wells is the catcher of the future, in my opinion, but he's got to be able to show that. He's got to be able to play every day. And, if he can't and, you don't believe in him, just freaking bring up Agustin Ramirez then, or just play, give Ben Rice an opportunity at catcher. I mean, I don't know. Like for me, the whole Trevino's bat's solid and he's really good at blocking the plate and he's great at framing, but he can't throw. I'm like, well, the run game is how the Red Sox single-handedly beat the Yankees in that game. I mean, all of their runs
You're
were
not wrong.
scored based on that. I mean, 9 stolen bases. And you think about it and you're like, oh, well, he just moved over 90 feet. No.
Wait, hold on. Are we talking about? Hold on 1 second. We're sitting here talking about Trevino like he's Joe Mauer.
Oh, I
What's
know.
his ops? Okay, I'll just go ahead. I've got the research right here in front
I
of me.
mean, it's like around
His ops is
700.
his ops is exactly 700. Okay,
Yeah, which is,
just so for
I mean,
perspective.
we'll take that if we get Trevino with 80 mile an hour, arm strength. But right
Dog,
now
that's
he's
league
got
average.
75 mile an hour.
Like I try to tell people, this is league average is 700. Okay,
Well,
so
for a
the
catcher, I
average
mean,
hitter,
it's up there.
yeah, of course,
Yeah.
but it's not good enough to put a guy out there who's a liability in terms of throwing
I
the
don't
ball.
know how
Framing's
this
all good.
stopped being a timeshare and how Trevino runs away with it. I mean, I did until the throwing issue came up. Now I don't understand it. I do not think he's batting 247. I don't think that's enough to keep him over Austin Wells
Because
right
he
now.
was hitting two at the time, just to be fair, and no one was complaining when Trevino was playing every day when he was hitting 290. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you're going to hit 290, that's not above average for a catcher. I don't put a guy out there because he's above average as a catcher, but he can't throw. But then being above average for a catcher, that's still not an extraordinary offensive player, like someone I just cannot miss, because we're essentially saying that catchers are essentially as a unit, they're probably one of the worst hitting groups in the world. Like first base, better offensive players. Second base, I mean, better, more athletic. Shortstop, of course. Third, everybody. Okay. But when you say a guy's a good offensive catcher, you're essentially saying, hey, I know everybody else is kind of down here below league average. He's league average, so we have that edge there. Well, is that gap wide enough to justify putting his arm out there? In my opinion, it's not. I really like the solution that you offered, which is believing in Rice or Wells. Take your pick. And so far, I mean, they put Wells out there today, obviously to no avail. We had 3 hits. It was a disaster. But, we'll see what happens tomorrow. Of course, I'm expecting to see Trevino tomorrow, unfortunately, but it is what it is.
No, we will. And I think this all stems from the fact they gave Wells all those opportunities. And keep in mind, Wells started off the year starting with the first 4 games. So believe it or not, Trevino has played 52 and Austin Wells has played 48.
Wow, really?
That's how many games Wells played
in a row. I see.
Early on in the year.
Yeah.
So get this, though. So Wells has 17 runs scored. Trevino has 19. Keep in mind, 8 of those came from home runs. So Wells scores runs. And runs matter.
He's more athletic, which our comment section, even more than us.
Better.
Oh, tell me, please.
It gets better. So Trevino has a total of 0 doubles on the year. Wells has 8.
That's weird.
Austin Wells has 8 doubles this year. He has 27 hits on the year. 8 of them are doubles.
How many homers?
He's only got 2. He's got 11. He's got 11 RBIs. Trevino has 25, obviously, because he had the home runs. Trevino has 11 walks. Wells has 18. Wells has 33 strikeouts. Trevino has 27. Trevino has played 4 more games. So I don't look at the stats. I mean, again, like Trevino, 37 hits. Wells, 27 in 4 more games. I'm not sitting here like Trevino's absolutely the better, hitter. I think, average wise, and it kind of goes to show you how average can, lie to you a little bit, which is why we do like OPS because it kind of combines everything. But he's hitting 247. He's got a 710 OPS. The home runs, the power there, that's a nice stretch. He had a few of those in a row. We'll see if he, comes back with that. But, Wells has that potential. Wells has a 609 OPS, considering the fact that he is batting 205. So what tells me is that Wells is getting on base, obviously with those walks. The other thing that's not talked about is Trevino. When he grounds it, it is 100% going to be a double play every time. He's not beating that out. Wells can actually beat that out. But in addition to that, Wells is putting together extra base hits, and Trevino's not doing that.
You know what just kills me though? I would say Trevino still is just the better offensive player.
He
And
is.
if you
He
and if you
absolutely is.
describe this Yankees team, and if you really look at the team, it would drive you nuts looking at this 1 through 9. Our 1 through 9 is not very good right now. And are you going to actively make the decision to put the better, in my opinion, Wells is a better overall baseball player than Trevino. But I think Trevino is a better offensive player. And the Yankees right now are not hitting at all, especially at the bottom of their lineup. And where does Trevino hit? 8th or 9th every single time. And so I think that in general, if you're looking at, well, how do we get this team out of this funk? And we're going to have to score runs if our starting pitching is not going to be as good as they were prior. Well, you kind of put in the better of the two offensive players. You take that regression defensively. And I'm not saying it's right. I probably wouldn't do it myself, but I can see where their head would be in making that error, essentially.
Yeah, I just think that the biggest thing right now, if we're taking away anything from this show, if you take away anything from the show, not Trevino, Wells and Cabrera, they need to keep playing. If they keep playing, they can get into a rhythm. The issue wasn't that Wells couldn't hit, he wasn't delivering hard contact. He didn't have a negative launch angle like DJ Lemahieu does. The issue with Wells is that he was unlucky. And if you keep playing him, eventually that comes around because you can't just keep getting unlucky for the whole year. So I think naturally it was going to turn over for him. But the problem is, Gary, he can't get into a rhythm because he's now pinch hit twice this week. He starts once a week now.
Yeah, he got to hit one of those at bats, but obviously you can't expect that to work.
It's ridiculous. There's no rhythm whatsoever to be established. And I think we talk about all the time how guys get into slumps. Well, it's the same thing when guys get into hitting streaks. Do you think guys get into hitting streaks because they turn into pinch hitters or they take a day off? No, they stay in the lineup and they're hitting well and they keep this momentum building. The way to kill that is to start, treating them like, oh yeah, you're going to play once a week. So I want to see them cut back on that. Tomorrow, it's a little dicey. Something has to give, though, because you have Stroman, who's one of the only pitchers that right now I trust in the short term, which is kind of sad to say. Stroman has a 3.15 ERA. He's 7-3 with a 1.26 WHIP. He's pitched 91 innings. You did mention his innings. He has not been able to get over that certain number. I forget what number you're talking about, but he hasn't been able to get over it.
So he's still a little bit ahead of that, which is nice, right? And
yeah,
he's done. You wouldn't know the context of his career that he usually deals with injuries, because if you look at Marcus Stroman, he doesn't have any problem getting deep into games. Boone's let him go, maybe a little longer than what some people are comfortable with, but for me personally, I love it. And right now it's working, but we're going to have to see how, when he starts creeping up towards the break, we need to see how he pushes forward, because I'm hoping for the best. Right. I'm not hoping that Stroman has any issues at that 135 number, because if he does, it puts such an emphasis on what Garrett Cole does. Because when Garrett Cole first got to pinstripes, he was not Garrett Cole. He was not pitching his usual self. He was not very good. Everyone was saying he doesn't have sticky stuff. He couldn't beat the Boston Red Sox, right? Remember those days? Well, a lot of that was the pressure that his teammates were putting on him because they weren't pitching well themselves. Garrett Cole was like the one bright spot in our rotation. And so I will say this, these other guys got to pick up the slack. We need Stroman to be Stro. That's all I got to say about it.
I agree. And unfortunately, they're going up against your boy Kikuchi,
Doesn't
which
bode well for us. We're gonna have negative 5 hits tomorrow.
yeah, it's not good. And you know how you know it's not good because he's coming off 2 bad outings. The last 2
Oh boy.
games, he has 6 innings pitched, right? Against the Red Sox in Cleveland, right? 6 innings. He's given up 15 hits and 9 runs.
Oh, he's
He-
Sandy Koufax tomorrow.
yeah.
We are done.
It's
Call
like,
John Birdie. Call everybody. Call Dominguez. Call Stanton. Tell him get off the IL stat.
oh
We need
man.
all of you. Every
Oh,
single one of you.
I mean, hopefully he just continues to struggle, but we've seen this before. I mean, you called him Kabuti, and it was like I took that personally. Like it was
He
not.
didn't miss a spot all game. No one did anything. And he looked
No,
nasty. So I'm just surprised that he struggled. But yeah, I expect to see Sandy Koufax tomorrow night.
he looked good against Milwaukee, and then against the Orioles, he only gave up 1 run in 6 innings, and then he gave up 6 runs against the Pirates. So yeah, I mean, he's had games where he's given up 6, 5, and 4 in his last 5 outings. So obviously he's giving up 0 tomorrow. All jokes aside, though, the Yankees, they should be able to win tomorrow. Okay, Stroman should be able to put together something. Give him 7 innings, maybe 6, we'll say. And then their bullpen, some of those guys are ready to go now. I mean, like I would say they have Weaver's good to go tomorrow. He hasn't pitched in 2 days, I think. So Weaver's good to go. Canley's good to go. They'll have Clay Holmes as well available. Um, I wouldn't pitch Jake Cousins back to back. He just got called up, but you have those
Agreed.
3. Bickford is probably not available, and that's probably a good thing. So yeah, you got those 3. I don't know why you sent down Gomez. You don't have him, but still, those 3 that could get you. If Stroman gives you 6, you're good. If Stroman gives you 7, you're really good. Stroman gives you 8, you're fantastic. Stroman gives you 4. The bullpen game it's going to be a bullpen game, and you're probably not going to like the result. Although Tonkin is also available, to be fair, Tonkin's good too. But the bottom line is, if the Yankees get a good start out of Stroman and don't give him run support, they don't deserve to win. And the same thing could be said if Stroman doesn't give him a good start yet again, but the Yankees also can't hit, they don't deserve to win. I mean, the
Yeah.
reality is that you have to be able to score runs, but you also have to be able to defend. And if you're giving up 9 runs, if you're giving up 8 runs early on in the game, it just sets a tone. And, whether I don't care what professional athlete they'll say, oh, yeah, we never viewed ourselves out of the game. That is bullshit. They know it. We know it. When you see that crooked number on the freaking scoreboard, you're standing there in the dugout. There's no way there's not a pit in your stomach. Like,
They've
I
won
got
2
up for this
games.
shit today.
Dude, they've won 2 games their last 10. They've lost 4 in a row.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
You
not
don't
great.
tell me that Stroman's first 3 innings of tomorrow's start don't mean a whole lot. Because I tell you right now, if we go out there
I'll say the
and
first at bat. I'll tell you if
yeah,
they win based on the first at bat.
if Kikuchi goes out there and goes perfect through the first 2 innings, just know we're in for a long night.
Yeah.
And we don't want that. We're not rooting for it.
No,
I need Stro to show up and show out. I asked him to do it his last start. He delivered. I'm asking for it again. I'm not going to predict this as a win, by the way. I'm no
I'm
homer.
not either.
I'm not predicting this as being, I'm not even saying like predicting a win. If I had to bet on this game with my hard earned money, I'm betting that we lose this game. Like I'm not saying we're going to lose, but I wouldn't put money on the Yankees showing up and punching back tomorrow. You've lost 4 straight games, 2 of your last 10 you've won. I mean, that's nothing. That's you're not showing up. So reality is you need to go show us what you're made of. You can't be a championship team for 2 months, have 2 guys go out with injuries. Now all of a sudden you're like, we're thin. What do we do? Well, be a championship team. We've seen teams like the Dodgers and the Astros deal with injuries to Kershaw being out for 3 or 4 months. And long and behold, we still see them deep in October every year, and everyone calls them chokers. But at least they're at the ALCS and NLCS, right? So
Yeah.
you can't sit here and make excuses because a couple guys are hurt. Everybody deals with injuries. Go out there and perform. That's all we need.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think if Stroman gives them 6 tomorrow, I think they win. I'll say
Okay.
that. Yeah, I mean, I think it really comes down to a confidence issue. I think if Stroman goes out there and he's electric early on, I think the bats will start randomly, you know, just showing up.
I
But
hope
if
so.
if he gets absolutely shelled, I think it'll be just like today. So I think they coincide more than people give them credit for. It is a game with human beings. We talk about the human element all the time. You can't be talking out of both sides of your mouth. You can't say I believe in the human element and then act like, oh well, the pitcher has no correlation with the hitter. It's like yes, it absolutely matters because whether you realize it or not, you can be like I'm confident and not be confident. Okay, I mean that's the way it is.
It's not a coincidence that 4 of our 5 starters right now are struggling.
Yeah,
Okay. Or I should
3 of the
say
5.
3.
Yeah,
3 of the 5 because Stroh and Cortez have been really good.
isn't it
Those
funny?
2 are the only 2 strong pitchers, one of which we said, "Hey, which one of you 2 should go to the bullpen?" They're like, neither, because we're going to be the only 2 guys that actually
Yeah.
can pitch."
It's funny the
So
way
that's where
the
we are.
world works, especially the new viewers. They have no idea that we were calling for them to go to the bullpen at one point.
Well, that's how honest we are, is we'll actually talk about things we've said, even if it's not
Yeah.
over the target. So, I mean, it's part of the reason why we're the best show by a mile. And eventually that's going to reflect that. But our viewership of late has definitely reflected that. So, yeah, we'll hope for the best tomorrow. Yeah, not predicting a win, but this offense has got to put up or shut up. It's time.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. We got the best fans.
Oh, kidding me? Come
I
on.
love our comment section. Yeah, you get some yahoos, but those aren't like really the people that support us. Those are just trolls. So
Nice. It was a
um
nice shirt you wore today. I love the guy who was like, "Nice tank top. That's not professional," and everyone just kicked him and beat him down to the ground in the comments.
and he might actually be like a supporter of the show, so I don't want to bag on him too much.
Oh, it was funny. Come on.
Yeah, no, it was funny. And yeah, and then I just what's crazy is the intro yesterday before we wrap this up. It just kind of came out naturally. I was like, I'm not wearing a tank top. Like it was the flow was there and everything. I didn't even think about it. It just I was looking at myself while I'm talking. I'm looking at you. I see the screen. I'm not wearing a tank top, so I was just like, yeah, I'm not wearing a tank top today because that's I was thinking about that. But yeah, I took it like a man, I guess. I mean, it was kind of funny and it was no big deal. But
Jake took that personal, and then he was a part of a video with 3,500 views. So that's
yeah,
how we take it out.
no,
Yeah.
it's all good though. And yeah, I mean, shout out to Michael K. I mean, if he was ever wondering if people cared about him, well, look at how well that video did. A lot of people care about Michael K. So
This is true.
he's the man, and you guys are also the man or the woman, depending on who's watching. We appreciate you guys as always. Be sure to like, subscribe,
Although the
and
analytics
comment.
say it's men.
Yeah, the analytics would tell you it's 98%. But no, we appreciate you guys watching. Be sure to follow us on all social media at Yankees Unloaded, at JK Bogan, at Gary Sheffield Jr. Until next time, probably after that game, I would assume. We'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, folks.
And like this video.